You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. All right, welcome back, my friends, to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm actually out in the desert in Joshua Tree right now while I'm recording this podcast episode, so the audio might be a little bit different. I'm recording from my van and just directly onto my laptop. You got to get things done and squeeze things in when you can, so I'm here recording from the desert. Now, last week I mentioned that we are actually about to enter one of my favorite seasons of the year. This is the time when we open up our once-a-year program called the Adventurous Reinvention Experience. Now, if you want to learn more and get on our wait list for that, you can go to shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. It's just the initials for Adventurous Reinvention Experience. That's shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. I'll also have that in the show notes as well. That will just give you some more information on what this program truly is. And this program and experience will be opening up at the end of the month. So end of March, early April. And today I just wanted to share a story from one of our very first years running this experience. We've been running this experience since 2023. So this will be our fourth ARE. ARE is what we call it for short, our Adventurous Reinvention Experience program. But our very first years running it, and I want to, take you back to one of the very first years. Because one of the things that I talk about a lot inside of the Adventurous Reinvention Experience, because it's a part coaching and it's part in-person backpacking adventure. It's a hybrid kind of program. We work together all summer. One of the things that I talk about a lot inside of that program is the value of not being afraid to fail for your big dreams. So we talk a lot about creating lives that make us feel as alive as we do on the trail. And then we also get to go feel alive out on the trail together. It is a big kind of full body experience. And reinvention and becoming the woman you want to become, whatever that looks like or whatever that is that you want to step into, it requires that you sign yourself up for the possibility of failure. And the better that we get at failure tolerance, the more value and possibilities and dreams and other things that we can create in our lives and unlock in our lives. Because nothing in our lives and in the mountains is guaranteed. We can prepare, we can train, we can have the best, most detailed trip plan or safety plan, but there's never a guarantee of success or even smooth sailing. But if we let that fear of failure stop us, we end up living our lives really, really small, and we live our lives dictated by fear. But when you're willing to go for something anyway, in spite of the possibility of failure or pivots that you might have to make, or I just like to call them plot twists, that is where real growth can actually happen, and you can actually create more value and possibility in your life. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So back in 2023, we hosted our very first cohort of the Adventurous Reinvention Experience. Now, this was 24 women total. So we had our whole like experience group. We do the coaching part of the experience together as one big group, but then there are 2 individual groups you sign up for a specific backpacking trip when you join this experience. This year in 2026, we're actually going to have 3 groups. So there'll be 36 women total together going through the coaching container, but you'll have 3 different trips to choose from to join in. So in 2023, we had 2 groups, 24 women total. We started our coaching together in May. And again, the women were in 2 separate group backpacking trips. That happens at the end of our experience. I believe we did our trips in 2023 around August timeframe. And we had a beginner group and intermediate group that year. And our intermediate group was set to do one of our most ambitious Adventurous Reinvention Experience trips we've ever planned. So that year, we always plan different areas and different trails and different, adventures each year. So it looks different every year. But that year, we were attempting Mount Whitney from the backside. So we were coming over Cottonwood Pass. We were going to go do a summit of Mount Whitney from Guitar Lake on the backside over a period of 6 days. So yeah, we were just going to take our time going there, summit, and then come back out the same way that we came in. It was a 6-day, 5-night trip that we had planned. And the women of both groups, but the women in the intermediate group in particular had trained really hard all summer for this experience. I always create a really specific, relevant training plan for each of the groups, depending on which trip they signed up for. And so at the beginning of the summer, we also are kind of, even though we're all located in different areas, like some women are in different parts of the country or even in different countries, we're all training together collectively, even though we're separate. And so we're following the same training plan and getting our bodies strong and getting really prepared. And in our training plan, we're typically, hiking several times a week. The ladies were also joining coaching calls, not just for our reinvention training, but also for there's an element of outdoor mentorship that goes into this program as well. They were dialing in their gear, preparing their food, booking their travel. And then in August, they showed up to the trailhead and met a group of strangers from the internet. Now, one of the benefits of this program is that we do coaching together all summer. So you feel a little less like strangers in this instance than maybe you would signing up for other guided experiences, because we are in such a kind of intimate coaching container together. So that is a huge benefit. Like, you get to know the women a little bit before. So it's not quite strangers on the internet, but a lot of these people have never met in real life. So still strangers from the internet. And then together we embark on this big, bold adventure together. And our clients in that 2023 intermediate group trip, they were ready. They trained so hard. But then Mother Nature had other plans for us. So as we embarked on our trip, we were so excited, but halfway through our trip, a tropical storm, essentially a hurricane, hit California. So originally we were expecting a little rain. Like, we saw this tropical storm coming in. We were expecting a little rain. The Eastern Sierras are quite a bit off the coast, but it still was impacting the mountains a little bit. But we felt like, as guides, going through all the forecasts and looking at everything, like, we felt really confident and safe as continuing this trip forward. So as we entered, that's kind of where we were at when we were starting it. We're like, oh, okay, a little bit of rain on some of these days, but not a big deal. Shouldn't be anything that hinders us. But of course, we're continually checking in with our safety contact as guides in particular, but you should be doing that anyways if you were just going on a self-powered trip. But each day as we hiked in, the forecast kept changing drastically every single day, like super unpredictable, drastically, very abnormal for this area. And the originally termed tropical storm turned into, like, I think a once in a 40-year kind of like hurricane storm that hit California. And after about 2 days on the trail, as we kept getting weather updates from our safety contact on the outside, we realized we had to make a hard decision. And so what we like to do in the Adventurous Reinvention Experience is, like, part of this is really just helping you grow as a leader yourself and getting to see how we make decisions and doing it as a group. So we, as guides, we never like to make the decisions in a silo. We brought everyone together and we were like, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's the advice that we're getting from the outside. Here's the weather updates. Here's what our original plan was. Here are some possible other options that we have. And we really just sat down and we talked through it, right? And after discussing with the entire group, like obviously us guides, we had what we thought was the best plan, but we wanted everyone to feel on the same page and understand the decision behind it and be really on board and like see how they could make this decision themselves as well if they were in this situation without guides. And so we decided to make the call to turn around, even though we were only 2 days so far into the trail. We hadn't even made it yet to Guitar Lake. That was going to be our next destination, but that would have put us higher up in the mountains, on the backside of Mount Whitney, with a lot of rain. There's a lot of rock over there, higher potential for rock fall, all of the things. So we made the call to turn around. Instead of continuing towards Whitney, we decided we were going to start hiking back out, because we knew the conditions could get much worse and we didn't want to be stuck in a harder situation to exit safely from, especially with such a big group. And on our journey back, we also knew that the weather forecast, there was going to be one day in particular. It was very, very rainy, going to like basically rain all day, but then it was supposed to ease up. So we also made the call to find a safe spot that looked safe from a perspective of like, if you got a lot of rain, torrential, like flooding and mudslides, and thinking through all of those things, that would feel safe to hunker down and make a base camp. And we decided that that's what we were going to do. So one day we spent 24 hours in a base camp while rain just poured and poured nonstop, like literally for 24 hours. And we knew it wasn't going to be the most fun. But again, the next days looked better for hiking out on. And when you're multiple days in the backcountry, a lot of times you have to just like prioritize your safe exit. And we knew that it was going to take us more than one day to hike out. So we wanted to make sure everyone was staying as warm and dry as possible, and we were all just being as safe as possible. And we did that. And it was a really like that day that we hunkered down. It was cold and it was wet, and it definitely wasn't like the most fun day I've ever had out in the mountains, but like our group definitely made the best of it. Before the rain really kicked off, we had this moment after we set up our base camp where we were like, let's just go on a little hike and see this other little lake that was in the area that none of the ladies had seen yet. And let's just go see it and hike around before we have to hunker down and it gets really rainy. And we did that. And it was just, I remember it being, oh my gosh, one of like the most magical moments I've had in the mountains. You could tell like nature was preparing itself. So marmots were running around. They were like readying their little dens and getting like stuff ready, and they were busy, and you could tell that they knew something was going on. There had already been some rain, so like the meadows we were in were just kind of like flooded. So we made this decision to like take off our boots and just hike in bare feet, and we felt like hobbits walking around. And there was just, since there was so much rain, there was all these like wildflowers and everything, and it was just like the mountains were alive and it was beautiful, and it was just like one of the best like special moments from the trip. And so we got to do that, and then we went back to camp, and the rain did start, but we set up, me and one of the other guides, we set up a shelter where we could have us be able to hang out even when it was rainy, because it's not fun to stay in your tent for 24 hours. So we created this like makeshift shelter out of some tarps where the group could hang out and like chat and have dinner and cook and all of those things. And so we did that together, and we played games. Like we played hours of games together, lots of laughs, and of course like a lot of hunkering down in your tent as well. But we made the best of it, and we were able to make it out safely the next day, and we got blessed with no rain on our hike out. It was wonderful, but it was definitely crazy hiking out because we saw all this debris everywhere, and the road even up to where we had parked was like littered with like boulders and rocks everywhere that had come off in the big rain that happened the day before. And so when we were driving out, it felt like the apocalypse. We were like driving really slowly out. And then the towns, like even getting into Bishop and, not Bishop, sorry, Lone Pine, where is the town nearest to Mount Whitney where we were going to be going, was like empty because nobody could get out there because of all the rains in California and all the mudslides. So it was like we had the whole town to ourselves. We went to lunch when we got back in town and there was like nobody in town, which is just really abnormal for this time of the year. It was crazy, but it was like such a unique experience. And I think we got out a day earlier than we were expecting to leave. So everyone's flights didn't even leave till the next day. So we all like booked a hotel and like got to be in a hot tub together and spend some extra time. It was like a really lovely experience. But here is the moment that I want to highlight. When these women signed up for the Adventurous Reinvention Experience months earlier before this trip, we started our program in May. We do our in-person trips typically around August. When they signed up, they were declaring something about themselves. Signing up for this experience, like we're exploring reinvention in multiple ways and different avenues in our life and like in our outdoor and adventure lives and identities as well. But, signing up for the adventure piece too is a mini reinvention on its own. It's like telling yourself, like, I'm the kind of woman who can take on big adventures like this. I'm the kind of woman who can train for something epic. I'm the kind of woman who can summit a 14er like Mount Whitney, like our intermediate group did. Whichever trip they signed up for at their level, it's like a reinvention of who they are stepping into as a woman in the outdoors. But from the moment that they signed up for this experience, there was never a guarantee that they would actually make it to the summit. And unfortunately, that is just how the outdoors works, and especially big summits like Mount Whitney. I think there's like something like 30,000 people that attempt to summit Mount Whitney each year, and only about 10,000 of those reach the summit. So it's only like a 1/3 success rate. And so success is never guaranteed. Things can always happen. There can be weather like we experienced. Maybe you could even get an injury before the trip or on the trip. There could be health issues. There could be family emergencies that prevent you from even getting to the trailhead. Or in our case, a wild once in a 40-year hurricane. All kinds of things can happen. I remember when I hiked the JMT, I got kicked off with my husband 12 days in because of a crazy wildfire that popped up. Things can happen. And yet, my clients that signed up for this experience, they still took the committed action anyway, holding the dream of creating this result for themselves as something that was possible. They signed up, they trained all summer, they showed up, they hiked, even when it was hard, even when the outcome was uncertain. Now, here is the thing. Even though we didn't summit Mount Whitney, the experience that these women got from this trip, in my opinion, was even more valuable than having a perfect summit day and having summited Mount Whitney. Now, I have done Mount Whitney several times, so maybe that's coming from the perspective of somebody who has done Whitney a few times already. But I think that they gained a more valuable experience than actually getting to the top of Mount Whitney. Because when I look at what they created so much. So they obviously created some incredible experiences and moments in the mountains. They got to watch the mountains come alive with marmots and deer and squirrels and pikas and birds. They got to see hundreds of wildflowers. It was just a particularly beautiful year. One of the most incredible Eastern Sierra wildflower seasons I've ever seen. We got to walk barefoot like hobbits through marshy meadows near Soldier Lake. They got to build friendships that will last a lifetime, and they navigated real challenges like altitude, big elevation gain, fatigue, weather. They got to practice creek crossings in really crazy conditions. They learned how to choose safe campsites. They learned how group decision-making and safety calls happen in real time. They experienced what it's like to make pivots in the backcountry for real dangers. They learned how to hunker down during serious weather, how to make shelter. They also proved to themselves that they could handle way more than they thought they could. And experiences like this are what actually make you a stronger backpacker. A smooth summit day, it doesn't teach you that much. I mean, it teaches you some. You get value from that. But like when my clients got to navigate a storm, they got to make safety calls, they learned when to turn around. Those are experiences that are going to build some really strong foundational confidence for their future adventures. And they got to build the judgment in themselves. They got to build more self-trust in themselves. And that trip is definitely one of my favorite experiences that I've had in the mountains. I just feel so lucky to have been able to help, I could not have engineered that experience myself for them, but I think it's just such a valuable learning experience. Over my 12 years in the outdoors, I have had my own personal experiences like this where something hasn't gone according to plan and there has been a quote unquote failure of some sorts and the original trip plan gets pivoted. But those are the experiences that have taught me so much about myself. They have raised the bar on what I think I'm capable of, on what's possible. They have built an immense amount of self-trust. When you experience something like serious weather and you navigate it and you navigate it smoothly and safely, this gives you so much more confidence for going out and navigating weather or maybe encountering unexpected weather. You're going to have this experience to tap into. So one of my favorite experiences, and it wasn't because we summit, it's because these women got to experience real mountain decision making in action live on the trail. And they got to see and experience their own true resilience in real time. And they also got to walk away from that experience knowing that they can handle so much more than they probably thought they could handle. And they proved to themselves that they can declare a bold possibility, like summiting Mount Whitney. They can show up for it without any promise of success, and they can turn both the highs and the lows into something absolutely extraordinary. And that was only the in-person backpacking trip part of this experience, because the Adventurous Reinvention Experience is way more than just the in-person retreat part. I created the Adventurous Reinvention Experience to be a container of opening up to incredible possibilities for yourself in your life and in the outdoors, because that has been such a transformative experience for me personally. And I wanted to create a space where we could facilitate that for other women and to grow not only as a backpacker, but also internally, and to have tools for more self-regulation, especially as we're going after big dreams and creating new possibilities in our life, to learn more self-trust and going for your big dreams and goals, and also to just really rewire your relationship with failure, because so many of us were taught such negative connotations with failing. So many of us are so scared to go after something because we cannot, we're struggling with the unknown aspect of it. What if it doesn't work out? What if I mess it up? What if it fails? What if I don't know what to do? All of those what ifs are preventing us from creating so much value. That is what I want you to see from that experience is the women that were willing to fail on Mount Whitney. They were willing to fail, and they did quote unquote fail on reaching the summit, but their willingness to fail created something I think that was even more valuable than getting to the summit. For me, the mountains are the reason that I learned to show up bigger in my life. They have been my training ground for courage and for risk tolerance and for embracing discomfort. The mountains have always given me a platform to explore how to show up when fear and self-doubt are screaming in my ear. They have taught me that I can navigate any challenge in front of me, that I'm far more capable than I've ever given myself credit for, that I can do hard things. And sometimes I even love them. I even love the hard things, and I'm so grateful for them. They've taught me that failure is part of the process of becoming who I want to be. They have taught me that life, just like the trail, is a 50-50 experience, and nothing has gone wrong just because I don't feel positive emotions all the time. This is my human experience. I get tired, I get hungry, I doubt myself, I grow weary, I have pain. It's all normal and to keep going. They have taught me that my life expands when I take chances on the dreams that feel maybe even too big. Even if I fail, like I should still go for it anyways. And that there are opportunities waiting for me I can't even imagine yet if I'm willing to say yes to the impossible. So this is why I created the Adventurous Reinvention Experience for you and for women, is to show you the connection between trail and life and to prove that what you create here in that container, you can create anywhere. Because the truth is, failure and challenges and self-doubt, they don't make the journey less worthwhile. It's often the very thing that makes it more powerful. The hard parts are where we get to raise the bar on what's possible for us. The hard parts are where we get to remind ourselves like who the fuck we are and how capable we are. And I don't want any woman feeling like she has to play small in her life. I don't want her to feel too scared of the hard, of the unknown. I know from over a decade of my own personal experience and working with hundreds of women that you can handle the hard and you can create wild possibilities in your life. And one other thing that I want to say is like when you expect backpacking and life to be easy, when you're expecting that, you are missing out on what it can really give you. Backpacking was never meant to be a spa day. Life is not like that either. Most of us can say that with absolute certainty. Like life isn't meant to be easy because it never has been. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. Backpacking is meant to be an adventure. The kind that tests you, the kind that surprises you, the kind that makes you feel fully alive. And we feel the most alive in contrast, in the highs, in the lows, navigating both of those. It's why so many of us will choose a week in the backcountry over a week of sitting on our couches watching Netflix. We are craving that grit and rawness of seeing what we're made of. And every challenge that you meet out on the trail becomes a tool that you actually get to carry into your life and towards every big dream and challenge that you take on in your life. And I think to myself, I am so grateful to have gotten to know the outdoors because of this, how much it has taught me. And I think how lucky are we to have such a beautiful way to grow our capacity to take on big dreams and big adventures. So I think the blend of seeing kind of the sameness of your life in the mountains and the lessons that we can learn from the mountains and bringing that into our life is such a beautiful thing. So if you want a container designed specifically for this kind of growth not only on the trail, but also in your life, I really hope to see you inside the 2026 Adventurous Reinvention Experience. Our next cohort, it opens in just a few weeks. That's when we'll be announcing what the trips are. We're again going to start our coaching container in May. There are only 36 spots available. If you want to learn more, I'm definitely going to be giving more information over the next few weeks about this experience, but make sure you're on our email list so you can hear more. But in particular, if you want to be the first to hear about it, join our waitlist. Now, we always open up spots first to our Backpacking Badass program students, or past retreat clients. Existing clients get first dibs at spots, especially since they're so limited. But we do an early and open enrollment for them about a week early. And then the next people that hear about it are on the wait list. So you need to be shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. That's where you can sign up for our wait list. It will put you at the front of the line to hear about when doors open and to hear even more about the program and see what it's all about. So it's going to be such an amazing summer. I cannot wait to tell you more. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into
into your adventurous identity. And that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist. And you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.